Taking your pets on an airplane sounds difficult, right? Actually, not as difficult as it may sound. How do I know this? Because I've recently done this myself. And now in this video, I'm here to walk you through the process of how I got my cats booked on a flight, past TSA, and my experience flying with them. Now, where to start? First, you gotta book your flight. In my opinion, I recommend flying with Delta because Delta has one of the most relaxed pet policies. Also, based on my experiences, Delta has one of the best customer services out of the major airlines. So I think you're gonna have a better time flying with Delta during the stressful time, not only for you, but also your pet. You're likely not to be punched off the plane or asked to put your pet in a luggage space. Plus, one thing that's really unique when flying with Delta while also flying with a pet, Delta themselves do not require a health certificate, while a lot of the other airlines do ask for that. However, before we book your Delta flight, let's go over some restrictions before actually booking the flight. So there are some strict rules. If you're bringing your pet as a carry-on, you cannot sit at the bulkhead seats, so the seats that don't have a seat in front of you, because you'll have to put your pet under the seat in front of you. You cannot sit in an emergency row. You can't sit at the seats that are designated as non-stowage. Can't sit at flatbed seats. Can't sit at rows 46 through 51 on the A330-200 aircraft, and can't sit at rows 54 through 59 on the A330-300 aircraft. You can't sit at first class seats or Delta Comfort Plus seats on the B737-900, only the 73J. Also can't sit at center seats on the B757-200 aircraft and Delta One seats. Also, for the first class seats, there's only allowed to be 2 pets per plane. However, for the main cabin seats on the same plane, there's allowed to have 4 pets in that section. Basically 6 pets total per flight. So keep these in mind when you're booking your flight. As for booking your flight, just go ahead and book as normal as if you weren't taking a pet on board. Make sure there are seats that aren't bulkhead seats or emergency row seats, and you should be fine on most airplanes. Of course, check if there's any other restrictions that I listed off before. However, I think for most people, especially for domestic flights, these are really the only 2 rules that will apply to you. After you get done booking the flight, now this next step is when we'll add your pet. And if you're flying with Delta, you can just go ahead and contact support. Personally, for me, the easiest way to do it is go to the Delta app on the bottom right, click on more, then scroll all the way down and click message us. Then a message chat should appear. Oh, actually, before you contact support, make sure you know these other rules before you go into the chat. Like for the carry-on rules, you can only take small dogs, cats, and birds. Their pet must be 10 weeks old for a domestic flight, 16 weeks old to the US from another country, and 15 weeks old to the European Union. You're only allowed to have 1 pet per carrier, unless you have a female cat or dog with their babies or litter, which has to be 10 weeks to 6 months old. You can also have 1 carrier for 2 pets, with the 2 pets being the same breed and size, and also are within 10 weeks to 6 months old. And of course, if both of them can fit within the carrier. So that means they're not squished and they have room to walk around. The carrier you're bringing has to be leak proof and ventilated on 3 sides if it's a US domestic flight, but it has to be ventilated on 4 sides if it's an international flight. You're also not allowed to open the carrier during the flight. Also, the carrier is only to be recommended a maximum of 18 inches by 11 inches by 11 inches, since typically it'll fit on most of their airplanes. However, this can differ based on your airplane. So make sure to double check this link, and I'll leave it in the description, and make sure the carrier that you're planning on bringing will fit under the seat in front of you. But mainly for contacting support, make sure you have the detailed information of the flight you booked and the measurement of the carrier you're planning on bringing. So this is how it's gonna go. You'll get the virtual assistant, and then you want to talk to a representative. They'll confirm if you want to talk to a representative, and then when you get connected to a representative, this is where you'll talk about adding your pet to the flight. So I responded back to them, hey Marielle, gave them the information they needed. So my name, confirmation number, cities of travel from Washington DC to Lexington, Kentucky, and then the dates of travel, and what your intentions are that you want to carry your pet on a flight, and the carrier you're planning on bringing. So I included the brand name and how big the bag was, 17 by 10 by 10. They'll send you a website to verify your account, then they'll just verify that you understand the fees and rules that come with bringing your pet on board. So like you understand the fees to bring your pet as a carry-on is collected at the airport during check-in, so you don't have to pay anything right now. When traveling within the US, Canada, and Puerto Rico, the fee is $95. However, if you're traveling internationally, then the pet fee will cost $200 per pet. Also understand that your pet counts as a carry-on item, so you plan on bringing any luggage, you'll have to check that in, unless you bring a personal item like a purse or something like that, like a small bag, and that'll count as your personal item, not your carry-on. You'll also have to provide your pet's breed, age, weight of the kennel with your pet in it, and the dimensions of the carrier, and whether it's hard or soft. So I gave that information to them. My first pet, Suki, is a calico, short-haired domestic cat. She is 7 years old, and the weight with her in the carrier is 11 pounds, and the carrier she'll be in has a dimension of 17 by 10 by 10. My second cat, Cindy, which is kind of a credit card snob, is a tabby, and her breed is a short-haired domestic cat. She is 6 years old, weighs 15 pounds with the carrier, and she's in a carrier that's 17 by 10 by 10. The carriers are both soft-sided, and I would like to proceed. And then the Delta representative just made sure I understand some other rules too. The pet must remain inside the carrier with the door secured while on board the aircraft, in the boarding area, during boarding and deplaning, and in the airport lounge. And you are responsible to keep the pet passive during the flight. And also, like I said earlier, Delta does not require a health certificate for carry-on pets. However, it might be necessary for the state you are traveling to. And I'll go over that in a bit, because unfortunately the state I was traveling to, Kentucky, does require out-of-state pet to have a pet certificate. And then that was done. Easy as that. In my opinion, I think flying with a pet wouldn't be any easier on any other airline but Delta. Now about the pet certificate. I did ask later on if the Delta agents would check the pet certificate to see if I had it, and basically the customer service representative said it was possible that they'll check. So just in case for the state I'm traveling to, me and my wife decided to get a health certificate. So we called around to a lot of veterinarians, and especially in DC, they were charging a lot. Like just for the health certificate alone, it cost about $200 per pet. And that's not even including all the up-to-date shots that they'll need. However, after doing more research, we decided to go with Banfield, which is basically all the vet offices that are connected to PetSmart. And the reason why we decided to go with Banfield is because when you get a pet wellness plan, it includes a health certificate for domestic travel for free. Plus, you'll get all the other benefits that comes with the wellness plan when you buy it through Banfield, because most states that require a health certificate also require your pets to be up to date on all their shots. So all the shots are included, the fecal exams, if my cats need a checkup, that's all included in the Banfield wellness plan. Plus, you'll also get a slight discount on prescription medications for your pet, and that especially came in useful for buying my cat's anxiety medication for the flight. For the wellness plan for both of my cats, it cost me $55 a month, so basically $660 for the whole year. And I thought it was worth it than just purchasing a health certificate, with the total of $400 for both my cats without even including the wellness stuff that they'll have to get, like the rabies shots and other shots that they'll have to have. Also, the Banfield plan has unlimited office visits. Oh, and also for the health certificate, now if you decide to go with Banfield or anyone else, try to make an appointment 2 months or 1 month before, because vet offices can be busy and you just want to secure an appointment about 1 week before your flight, or it may not be valid for the state or the airline you're flying. It has to be pretty recent. So your flight, for example, leaves on the 14th, try to get your health certificate appointment on the 7th or somewhere between that week. So the day finally came to fly my cats across half the country, and hopefully everything will go smoothly. So we packed up our cats in the carrier. They weren't too happy about that. Gave them anxiety medication, then headed to the train station, went through the fare gates, got one last look at our home metro stop, Crystal City, and boarded the train going towards Washington DC's Ronald Reagan National Airport, with basically our cats screaming the whole time, as they do. Got off the metro, then went into the airport, checked in the luggage that we wanted to fly. An interesting thing when you're flying with a pet, when you go to check in using the Delta app, this is what the screen will look like. You basically won't have the option to have an online ticket, because you have to check in with a Delta agent at the check-in desk. So that's what I did. I rolled over my cats and my carry-on luggage I was planning on bringing to the check-in area in the basement, because in my experience at the Dhaka airport, I feel like that check-in area is less busy. However, I will tell you, if you're planning on flying with a pet, make sure you come early, especially if there's a line, because for the process for checking in a pet, it took me a full 10 minutes and there wasn't even a line. What's crazier is, from what I remember, they didn't even ask me that many questions. It was mostly just entering the information into the computer and just waiting for everything to process. Even though it was a long time, it was still fun. The Delta agents asked me everything about my cats, said my calico was really pretty, and they thought Cindy, the mascot of this channel, was some sort of like Bengal cat or something, you know, those expensive cats. But no, honestly, I got my cat Cindy for only $5. For some reason, the purple jacket Delta representative thought I had some sort of show cat or something that I was trying to transport. And after you get your pet checked in, for Delta, they'll give you this green little tag for your carrier, basically the terms and conditions that you signed it, and on the back your personal information. Oh, and also this is where they'll charge you to bring on your pet. Now just remember, you have credit cards that have an airplane incidental fee, like the American Express Platinum, the Hilton Inspire, and the Ritz-Carlton card. This is when you'll want to use these cards, because for the pet fee, it will count towards the airline credit. Therefore, you may not be paying anything. But now it's time to get to the worst part, the TSA process. Alright, for the TSA process. So personally, I have a Clear membership and a TSA PreCheck membership that I got covered under my American Express Platinum card, and that made the process way easier for me. Because at Clear, all I had to do was scan my eyes, and I didn't need to show them my ID. They walked me up to the TSA pre-check agent. All I had to show them was my airplane ticket. I didn't have to take my shoes off, put everything in my pockets into the bin, and then here comes the hard part. I had to open the cat carriers, carry my cats, and put the carriers through the x-ray machine. Now I know you don't know this about my cat Cindy, but she is a shy extrovert. So she's nervous around everything, but always wants to talk to you and have companionship, almost like a shy dog. So this was a problem taking her out of the carrier. She dug her nails straight into my back and just screamed like a banshee. Everybody was looking, and the TSA agents were very concerned. The TSA manager actually had to walk us through the process so we could get our carriers faster. So basically he let us cut in front of everybody else. While holding our cats, we had to go through the little security detector, with Cindy, my cat, screaming in my ear. Our second cat, Suki, actually wasn't that bad. She's usually pretty well behaved, so my wife had no problem with her. The TSA manager personally ripped the pet carriers out of the x-ray machine as soon as he saw it poke out of the x-ray machine and handed them to us. Because I'm telling you, Cindy was screaming so loud. I bet the whole airport could have heard her. But we got them into the carriers just fine, got the rest of our stuff, and headed towards the Delta Lounge at the DCA airport, which will be across the American Express Centurion Lounge when they finally get that thing built. So going to the Delta Lounge wasn't anything different. So you check in as normal, show them your American Express Platinum card, or the Delta Reserve card, or whatever else you're using to plan on getting in, show them your airplane ticket, and all they said to me was during your stay at a Delta Lounge, make sure your pet stays within the carrier. But everything else was normal. Picked up free food, picked up free drinks, while our cats were chilling nearby the window. And we did sneak a little bit of deli meats and cheeses into Suki's bag, because she really likes cheeses and deli meats. Is it allowed? Probably not, but no one made a fuss about it. Suki, our cat, never left the carrier, and it was just for like a second. At this point, when they're in the lounge, they didn't really make too much of a fuss. I think they were pretty exhausted from being on the metro and going through TSA. And also, I think the anxiety medication was starting to kick in. Later on, we did move them to the table because we thought being too close to the window was making them a bit cold. But yeah, it was nothing too different. No one really looked at us or talked to us on why there were cats in the Skyclub, but now it was time to head to the airplane. Our late night flight non-stop direct to Lexington, Kentucky at 9 p.m. Our gate check-in was normal, no one asked about our cats, just scanned our ticket and walked on the bridge. After we got on the airplane, we just put our cats under the seat, and we were in a pretty small airplane. I believe it was the E-170, but our pet carriers had no problem sitting underneath the seats in Comfort Plus. Kind of funny too, I believe on this flight there were 4 pets in total, 2 dogs and then 2 cats. The 2 cats being us. Funnier too, one of the people who were carrying dogs was sitting right in front of us. But after everybody got situated, then it was time to take off on this 1 hour and 30-minute trip. Now during this trip, my cats were not doing that great. Our calico Suki was meowing the whole time, and her meowing made Cindy meow. The only way to make her stop was I took her carrier, put her on my lap, opened the carrier a little bit, and then just stuck my hand in there, and then just slightly petted her the whole time. And me doing that made her quiet, therefore my other cat quiet. No one really made a fuss about it. The flight attendants didn't really care, as long as she was in the carrier and she was underneath the seats during takeoff and landing. However, I will say one tip that I forgot that I personally fortunately didn't have to experience, but the people in front of us with the dog actually used the bathroom within 30 minutes of our flight. So that kind of sucked. It smelled a little bit, but it wasn't too terrible. And the only things they brought with them were wet wipes, which helped some, but it wasn't enough. So they had to ask the Delta flight attendant for more towels. So keep that in mind when you're flying with a pet. I know it can be especially hard for cat people to remember that kind of stuff, to bring like baby wipes, towels, that kind of stuff. Personally, the only thing we did was we took a towel, put it at the bottom of our carrier, and hoped that if they peed or pooped that we could just throw out the towel. But other than that, it was just a regular flight. Smooth landing, got there on time, and everybody was still alive. Yup, basically a normal flight. After we landed, we got our cats, deboarded the plane, and we were officially in Lexington, Kentucky, home of the horse racing and bourbon. After we got our bags, waited outside the airport, waited for my in-laws to pick me up, and arrived to our new home. Our cats were a little bit traumatized, but after a couple days, they were fine. But yeah, that was my experience from start to finish of flying my cats in an airplane across half the country. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them down below, and I'll try to answer them the best I can. I hope this video helped you out, and I'll see you later.